You
Was
know,
was this substance that fucks with you?
um, I mean, I would say my drug of choice is definitely opiates, but I mean, I've explored all of them to the point where I've turned into a garbage can. And if it's there, if it's smokable or injectable, I'll do it. But what really got me off the rails was heroin, to be exact. You know, I
Okay.
had always been this functioning addict from 12 to 25. And then along my path, you know, somehow I was in Overtown with a friend of mine, and we couldn't get these pills because you got to wait to the beginning of the month because of prescriptions. And he told me this is a cheaper. This is a very popular story as well. Heroin's a cheaper route than pills, you know, and it's stronger too. Why not? And in my mind, I'm like, makes total sense. It's cheaper, it's stronger, and it's more readily available. Why not? I never thought about the consequences. I never thought about I could possibly die. I never thought about dare, the stuff in
Now
school,
this was going
any of
from
that.
taking a pill to injecting something.
Yeah, you can inject it, but I started off by smoking it.
Okay, so like
And
my
even
question
that,
is because I'm trying to see like where was that barrier, right? Like, cause I would assume that it's a lot less of a barrier if you go. Cause am I correct in saying that you also can smoke the pills?
some, yeah. From what I've heard, I'd never done it. Always swallowed them. I was never, you know, huge into needles and stuff until I met this so-called friend of mine.
Okay, so then you jump to the smoking, and that was a bit easier transition then into the injecting.
Yeah, yeah. I went from taking swallowing pills to smoking heroin to and like I wanted to try and do everything I could before putting a needle in my vein. So to the point where I met another so-called friend in Overtown who showed me intramuscular shooting. You don't necessarily need to put it in your vein. You can put it in your muscle, and it's a little bit longer of a release, but it's better than smoking it. And of course, I always want the bigger and better thing, right? So I was doing that for a while, and then one day my curiosity mixed with my sense of adventure was like, you know, let's see what else. How what are my limits here? How much further can I take this, and how much better can it get? Until that day where, you know, I put it in my vein, and then from once you hit that point, everything else is garbage. There's the muscle, the taking the pills, none of it does it unless you shoot it in the vein. So from there, it was all just downhill from there.
Okay, and the other thing is when once you go from the pills to this, now it's no longer like a thing made in a lab. Now it could be anything, right?
Fentanyl, rat poison, soap. I've had it all, man.
Okay, and well, you said something there like once you try that, it's like nothing. Everything else is nothing. So like
Not enough.
Yeah.
so like for example, you know, coming from me, right? Like I'm not a saint. I like to have a few wines, a few beers, sometimes you know, smoke a thing here or there, and that's just who I am. Was for someone like you thinking of that, is that something that's just like, nah, that doesn't cut it?
It doesn't cut it as in like, would I
Like having-
classify you as an addict
No, I'm saying like,
or a problem?
no, like if you
The
like
thing is having a couple of wine.
like for
That's
you
not
thinking
enough.
of you having some wines and things, is that something that is not enough for you to enjoy because
Well,
you
he
have
will
some
never have 2 cups of wine.
It's
That
not an
doesn't
option for me
exist.
now. You know, for me, I go by this saying. It's called "one is too many and 1,000 is never enough." What that means is I can never smoke a joint again because I've gone down this path into the ultimate drug there is. You know, if I smoke a joint, as soon as I get high, I'm gonna be like, "Wow, that's fun."
What's next?
But I know a much better high. As soon as I drink a glass of wine, oh, that was a nice buzz, but I know a better buzz. It's not the buzz I want. You
Damn.
know,
It
And
just
that's my
starts.
mind.
Yeah,
That's-
it
that's
just starts
deep.
like
that's deep
Yeah.
because it's like something that I might have fun with, like because you know this one is like it got nothing on this one in that comparison, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's interesting the way that works. And you said it
There's
was
never-
one is too many, 1,000 is not enough.
It's never enough. Yeah, I can't just have one. It's gonna have to be more. And then once I get there, I can do 1,000, and it'll never be enough for me. I want more, and I want more, and I want more. So the best bet for me is don't touch any of it. Complete abstinence. You know, which is sometimes it's an hourly struggle for me. You know, it's usually a daily struggle, but sometimes I'm literally on the hour. Just get by the hour, bro. Just get by the hour. You know, it's as the days of sobriety grow higher and higher for me, it gets easier. You know, the first 90 days is hell. It gets easier. It definitely gets easier. But with that being said, I would basically numb my emotions and numb everything to where I don't have to feel anything. You know, I was going through life as just this numb creature who doesn't have to deal with pain, doesn't have to deal with sadness, which also numbs my happiness and all that other shit as well. So I was just this numb being, right?
Zombie.
A zombie, essentially. They're a perfect example. I was a zombie. Now that I'm clean and I'm sober and I've made it out of there alive, now here's life. My emotions are all here. Now I have to deal with pain. Now I have to deal with sadness. Now I have to deal with I'm super emotional. And, you know, everything is extreme for me. So, and I have to find a way to deal with that. Before, I used to just numb it. How do I deal with this crap now, you know? And I had a very big problem with that at first. And it's just finding your way, you know. Therapy helps me a lot, you know, things like that. It's not easy, though. It's definitely not easy.
Do you think on speaking about things that help support, because I would assume that this also needs a supporting system around you, right? Like, for example, you think pets, because I do see that you've added new pets to the family. Do you think that helps when on the
pets
recovery?
Help. Yeah, pets definitely help. Sometimes her and I will fight. We'll get into a really bad fight, and I just pick up my cat, and I'm like, oh. And I'll tell her, grab the cat. Just grab the cat. You'll feel better, I promise. Yeah, cat.
And we're like,
reminds me
furious
of that movie, Take Him to the Greek, when they're
in
that place, like smoking the Jeffrey, and Puff Daddy's like, touch this.
Yes.
Feels so good.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna wrap my whole house around this shit.
Pets help.
It gives you a sense of
responsibility, unconditional love. Like, you cannot afford to be home depressed all day. For example, animals need you.
Coming from someone like, I think I have a bit of an addiction with food. Do you think, in your case, like
the biggest addictions,
eating something good, does that help, or does it still fall under the category like this doesn't touch anything?
Oh, I love food.
Okay.
I love food. I see my addiction with the way I eat sometimes, and you might see it as well. I'm really weird, man. I go through like my phases, and I'll go through like my super healthy, like go to the gym all the time. I'm not eating that cake phase, and then I'm like,
eat all cake every day.
Cake. It's almost like
it's very extreme.
Yeah, it's either up here or it's way down here. I'm usually not here.
Okay.
I'm somewhere way different.
So now that he's in recovery, his addiction's still there, but it's just like this certain behaviors.
It's different outlets now.
He's like he always says like, I'm not a normal person, and it's not like the way he thinks sometimes is very different than like your common person. The way he, his feelings right now, they're different because as a 32-year-old man, he's feeling now things that he should have been feeling for over a decade.
I'm emotionally a 20-year-old.
Okay.
Essentially.
Just because you for that long, you've sort of hid all these things underneath this numbness.
And it hinders your growing. It hinders maturity. It hinders all of that. I didn't have to, getting a mortgage, getting a credit card.
Having a routine.
Things that you go through in your 20s to 30s.
Adulting.
I missed all of that, and I basically stayed in a dark corner just getting high. And I didn't want any of that shit. I didn't want to grow up. I don't want to be an adult. I didn't want to be a functioning member of society. I didn't want any of that shit. So I strayed away as far as I could. Here I am now, 32.
Like re-entering society.
I'm basically re-entering society with the mentality of like a 22-year-old. I just got like my second credit card. It sucks, but I'd rather have this than the alternative.
Well, if it helps, in your case, that sort of hinder you I've had to start over many times in my life for other things. And like I have one credit card now. I live in a very small. So like I guess if you know, there's many things that could set you back, and I think, and I'm your age now, so that's why it sort of put me in perspective. I think as long as we want to always strive forward, I think there's hope.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to ask you about this too. Even though, like I sometimes, right, when I want to have a beer or something, and like, oh, I want to lose weight, and you have that little battle with yourself, it's hard for me to not do it. But then there are times when I felt bad, and then I start eating healthy and I feel good, and I'm just like, fuck, man, I just like this. Like, I just like being normal right now. Do you think that at times it does help you thinking maybe how nothing you were doing before, how much you were wasting your life, and the fact that you have an opportunity to actually live a life, right, that's worth, that has meaning, all this? Do you think that alone gives you some sort of high to keep going with it? Like people that may be in a step behind yours, do you think like you see that hope and it gets better as it goes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's definitely motivating. And let me just say this real quick before I forget about it. There is no possible way I could be where I am today without her. There is absolutely no way I could have done it. I think in order to make it out, you know, successfully, you need to have a good support system and someone who believes in you, who calls you on your shit, who calls you out when you're trying to manipulate them, who will love you unconditionally. And you need that, and it's really hard to find. It's very common for addicts to date addicts, you know, and it's just a cesspool of toxicity that I've never wanted to get into. I've never dated an addict. So I was very lucky to find her and for her to help me. Thank God. So that's very important. With that being said, this opportunity that I have now, right, to move forward, you know, it's definitely motivating. However, there's a factor, and I wanted to actually ask you to maybe you can relate with this with food. As you get better and you get better, you get more clean time, or maybe you lose more weight, and you go, shit, man, I've been doing really good. I should fucking reward myself. And there's a reward system that I have to where every time I look at I have a clock on my phone that tells me how much clean time I have, and I go, shit, man, I got 400 days clean. I should enjoy it with a little hit. I can do just one. And that's my mind. That's a little voice in my head telling me that. And I have to ignore it and go back to my 1 is too many, 1,000 is never enough thing. Reward factor, man, it's terrible, and it's got me 4 times. I relapsed all 4 times because of that.
And it's such a piece of shit because you know what's funny, dude, and that this is why you can sort of see the medical side of it, because I go through the same bullshit. Obviously, the stakes are not as high, but it's the same fucking concept, right?
Mentality.
Like I have 20 days eating well, exercising, and I'm like, yo, dude, what's good, bro? Let's have a little Domino's pizza, and tomorrow we're back at it. And it turns out into a 6-month, you know, fucking carbohydrate binge.
Exactly.
And then you're like, fuck, what the fuck happened?
What the fuck happened? Exactly.
Okay.
I've been there myself, man.
What is, and obviously, I mean, I'm speaking from somebody that's failed at it. You have said that you failed. What do you think in those moments? And it's not an easy answer, and I'm not looking for one, but I guess I just want to know from your end, what is that thing that you go to when you're in that fucking weak moment, when you have that little motherfucker in your brain saying, dog, you're not going to reward yourself? Come on, dog, it's life. Come on, you done all this good work and shit.
You only live once.
YOLO.
Yeah. Especially when I know people who are like doing it on the weekends and they go to work on Monday. I'm like, what the fuck? Why can't I do that? I can't do that, you know? It's really a matter of acceptance for me. I've accepted the fact that, dude, I just can't do that, man. I'm going to have to pick up something else. A hobby, hobbies are really important to me too. You know, they keep me off of things. But accepting, which is very hard to do. It sounds really easy, but I've had to accept the fact that I can never get high again. And I can be around people who can do it, and I'm just going to have to envy them. Maybe I can live vicariously through them and enjoy highs. I don't know. But accepting it and praying, that's usually what I do when I'm in that case.
Do you think, I mean, that's an interesting take there. Do you think it could help or mess up someone to be around people that are doing substances, not in not in a, I guess, super negative format, just people that maybe control it, have a few wines, smoke a joint on the weekends. Do you think being around people, is it easier for you? Or because like that's something I remember my dad for a while, he like almost died, and I don't know if it was specifically for drinking or he just had like a thing, but it all sort of exploded and he almost passed away. And I remember like he couldn't drink anymore, right? And before, me and him used to like kind of party, and and then after that he couldn't drink, but he would like go to places with me. He would buy me a beer, like, and he's almost felt like, part of me was like, shit, should I be doing this in front of him? But part of me saw him like, yeah, you drink it, and then we talk shit, and it almost feels like it's the same thing.
It's part of it, right?
How do you feel? Pretend I'm drunk.
How do you feel?
I mean, I would not recommend somebody in their first, I'm going to say minimum 90 days, to be around any of that. Part of the program that I'm in, we have a lot of these little cliche quotes. One is too many, 1,000 is enough, just for today. And one of them that is very important to me, that's the only way I was able to do this time, was you have to change your people, your places, and your things. That job that I had when I was bartending, I can no longer do that. Those people that I used to chill with on Fifth, I can no longer hang out with them, and hanging out on the weekends. Whether I'm drinking or not at that club, I can no longer do it. I had to change all of that. I had to leave all those people in the dust. I had to never go to that place again, and I had to do that. Being around people today, I do it. I go to brunch sometimes with her friends, and her friends like to drink sometimes, and one of them likes to pressure me sometimes. Can I tell the story? I'll make it really quick. So we got to brunch, right? This is my first time really meeting her friends.
This was a while back.
This was over a year ago, and I used to live near Las Olas. So we go to Las Olas, we go to brunch, and I tell her, I go, listen, I'm a little uncomfortable, and brunch is all about mimosas. I get it. I'm a little uncomfortable, but I'll go for you. I know your friends want to meet me. I don't want to be the ghost boyfriend that never comes around. Let me go. So I go, I meet them, and like within 5 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, who wants drinks? Let's get drinks.
Is that gonna
Not
hurt?
her, it was her friend who was like really wanted to get this party started, and Paul, would you like a mimosa? No, I'm good, thank you. I was kind. I was like, I appreciate it. I'm good though. And she's like,
but why?
What do you mean? No. You're having a mimosa. Here, has a mimosa. And I'm like, thank you, but no thank you. She wasn't like getting the hint. And then she like persisted one more time. And at this point, like everybody's looking at me now. And I had to, and I could have been so much, I could have done what I really wanted to do, but I didn't do it. I told her, I was like, listen, she asked me why. And I said, I'll put it this way. I've consumed more alcohol than probably all of you ever will. And because of that, I can no longer partake. That's a good way of saying it. I got my message across, and she apologized. She's like, oh my God, I didn't know this and that. I'm sorry. I guess you didn't tell them. I don't know. And then at one point, I had to go to the bathroom, and I took a little bit longer in the bathroom because I was literally in the bathroom praying, like, God, don't let me do it. I don't want to do it. Let me just get through this. I can get through this fucking brunch. It's just brunch. And I got through it, but it wasn't easy. That was a little bit earlier in recovery for me, but that's why I would recommend people doing it. Not unless like you really can. Like I wouldn't go to a bar and just chill and have a Coke. I would never fucking do that. I know people who can though.
We don't keep alcohol over here. Our home is pretty clean. When we go out, like I generally don't drink. When we go out to eat, it's also like we're not going to like a nightclub, we're not going to a bar, we're not going to any of those places where like everybody's clearly drinking. So we try to stay away from environments that are too like party heavy, and if I'm going to one of those, I usually go by myself, or like I check with Paul and I'm like, this is the environment, people are probably gonna get wasted, like because sometimes you go to party and there's no shame in that. It's Absolutely. Just he's just uncomfortable there. So sometimes I'm like, this is the kind of place. Do you want to go? Are you sure you're cool with it? If not, you can stay. I think something that helps us is like that. You know, if you feel comfortable, then that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? That story you're saying, like, I could totally see myself being that chick. You know, like, cause like for example in Venezuela, Latin America, it's like, you know, and I'm not sure if maybe this friend was Latin too. Like
Yeah.
She was.
like if I was
It's
with
not
some
ill
people-
intent.
like yeah, if I was with some friends and somebody that I didn't know was there, like, no, I don't wanna. I'd be like, maybe not now,
Come
just cause
on.
I'm a bit older and maybe I don't know, but I could see myself being in the past, like, hey, come on, man, just have. What do you mean you're not drinking? What's up? And
Exactly.
I wouldn't have ever thought of like maybe there's like, but maybe I can remember one time somebody telling me something like, nah, man, I already drank it all. And I remember with my dad, he used to tell people something like that, like, oh, you want to have one? And it's like, nah, I already drank it all. So now he used to say something like, I drank the whole Pacific. Now I'm looking at the Atlantic or some shit. So I'm not. But he would say like some little quirky joke, and then
Yeah.
so I think that was like, I guess, nice of you. But I could definitely see how the challenge is still there. You know,
Yeah.
especially you seeing in them be so casual about it, and you're like, your mind could play tricks with you. Like, what do you mean? You could just have a mimosa
Everybody's so chill about
and
it.
then go, you know,
Yeah.
play Monopoly at home or whatever.
So,
No, yeah, and I've been there. I remember hanging out with my friends, and I was like, no, because when I drank, man, I would drink until the lights came on and last call. That was me. And my friend, I'm going home. It's midnight. I'm like, fuck no, you're not going home. You're staying out with me all night. And I pressure the shit out of my friend. So I definitely know how it is, and I know she didn't have any ill intent towards me. She wasn't being nefarious or anything, but she just didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, she didn't know. Maybe she does now. I don't know, but. You know, and there's never really ill intent when it comes to things like that. I know now to not put myself in those situations where shit might happen. You know, I gotta remove myself from it now.
Before we leave this topic, because I have other things here that I want to touch on that are very interesting as well. What would you say to people that are in that path to recovery? You know, at any sort of part of that line, right? I guess. Like that would keep them in. I think this is something that also would apply to just everybody, because, you know, I myself, I have this issue where it's almost exactly the same. The mental part and little fuck that goes in your brain when it's trying to fuck with you and give you this little reward bullshit system. What's something that you would recommend people that are in that process that could help them? And I know you said some, so you already said some too, but just to sort of close anything that you...
Yeah. I mean, what I would tell I would... It's not easy. It's definitely not easy, but it's worth it. It's worth it, you know, to see your life change. My life 3-4 years ago, you know, compared to where I am today, it's literally, for me, it's a miracle. It is a miracle. That's why the odds are not in our favor at all. It's definitely not easy, but it's worth it. There are a lot of resources out there that I didn't know. There's so much stuff out there that's available. You just have to look for it. This is not going to happen on its own. You know what? I've been through that too, where I'm like, oh, just one more. Next week I'll start. Next week I'll get back on the diet. Next week I'll get back on the wagon. And then 3 years later, here I am. It's not going to happen on its own. That fuckery, I call it mind fuckery. It's going to keep lying to you and telling you, yeah, tomorrow, yeah, next week, yeah, next month. It's not going to happen on its own. You got to put in some kind of work. This is not a time to be lazy.
That's deep, because that fucking resonates with me. And that little next time
Next time,
can
man.
fuck with you.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
man,
then
that's inspiring.
2 years later, there you are.
And it's
start
definitely
today, man.
It's gonna inspire me to start doing this tomorrow. No, I'm kidding.
Right now. I'm going to go jog real quick while we're recording.